Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Jerred Moon here with Joe Courtney. How's it going, Joe?
Hey-o.
And we have Ryan Hill, who should have been on, years ago, but we finally got him on. He's been a Garage Gym Athlete for a long time. So, Ryan, I'm glad that we have you on the podcast, man. We've done a beats together, and I'm just excited to dive into what your journey's been like over the last, months, years, and all that stuff, man. So, welcome to the show.
Together on the beast.
Together. And we were at the same place, same time.
I was trying to keep up with Dominic Decker, and he left me in the dust anyway. So
yeah, Dom was all about the time that. Let's start with it, man. Just basic intro. What you do for a living, how you train, where you're from, all those things.
All right. Well, I am a regular dude now and a dad, so I would say I'm pretty average across the board. I was active duty military, and now I'm not. So my training has now been able to be more just kind of like what I want it to be, instead of me having to always feel the pressure to, make sure I'm hitting other performance gates like running, which I hate. So I've had periods of really great consistency and then periods of inconsistency. I think this past year has been my least consistent year. So if we had done this like right after the beast, I'd be at my peak Garage Gym Athlete game. But 2020 and 2021, I've been re-engaging that. So actually this month's been probably one of my best in a while. That's me. 3 kids, all under 8 years old, and that's.
Where are you located now?
I'm in Colorado right now, in Colorado Springs, and I'm a contractor, so I work at Peterson Air Force or Space Force Base now. So if anybody's in the Colorado area and wants to link up, I'm down to do a Meet Yourself Saturday or something.
Awesome. And so, are you in a garage?
At the moment, I'm in my office, but my house, we're remodeling, so it's a disaster. So I have this fake background up, and my garage is pivoting between workshop and gym. So right now, it's in workshop mode, and then later today, I'll clear everything out of the way to do the actual workout and turn it back into a gym. But I've been in a garage since 2015, before my time with Garage Gym Athlete, and it has spoiled me. And I'm now on Garage Gym version 3.0. So I've been like redoing it every couple of years and building it out. So pretty happy with where I'm at right now, but could always use more equipment, right? So.
Well, speaking of that, what is your equipment? What's the setup like?
So when I moved out to Colorado, I decided I would go in on that PRX system. I really like that because I can fold it into the wall, but it's not like the Rogue one where you have to it just kind of lifts right up. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the bulk of my like heavy duty stuff is all like I have the PRX rack. I have the plates that are mounted, the plate mount, the barbell mount and stuff. My barbells are Rogue. My plates I got off Amazon. I don't know what the brand is, but they've held up for years. They're rubberized, but they're not like the tire type. And then I've got some plyo boxes that I made following your instructions. I've got a smattering of kettlebells, big old tire, mace bells, and a lot of mobility stuff, because the older I get, the more I find myself using that. So
yeah, super necessary, man. So why did you just decide to start a garage gym?
Well, so back then I was really more into the bodybuilding thing, and very traditional 3 to 4 sets, 8 to 10 reps kind of stuff. And I didn't like going to the gym because I hated waiting on stuff. So I started small. I had like this Marcy rack with cables on it and a Marcy bench. I think all in it was like $400 out of Dick's in Clarksville, Tennessee at the time, to get me started. And yeah, that's all it really took. Is once I got used to being able to come home at lunch and knock out a workout and then be back at work within hour and a half. It was, I couldn't go back to going to a large gym. And now I'm at the point where I hate traveling or deploying because that's my only option. And I just hate working out around people. I feel like they're looking at me. I don't like all the mirrors all around me anymore. And I absolutely don't like waiting on stuff. So
it is odd to run into a mirror these days. Like it typically only happens to me if I'm like at a hotel gym or something like that, if I'm traveling. And it's just so weird because you spend all these years like in a garage, never seeing yourself do anything unless you like take a video. And then you're like in a hotel gym where it's like 360 degrees of mirrors and you're like, how do I not look at myself? Like, yeah, I think it's a lot of people are into that. But then once you get out of it, it's weird to try and get back into.
Yes, I face away from them, and then it's like in that kind of culture, you're like the person who goes into the elevator and faces the wrong way. It's just like what are you looking at, man?
Like, dude, eyes forward. Come on. What do we do?
Yeah. Eyes on yourself.
I've been seeing enough TikTok videos of the public gyms to know that I don't need to be going back in there. So
yeah.
It's real when you go there too, because even now I go there and we see somebody using something and I'm just like, I don't think you're using that right, or I don't know if you know how that equipment works, but I'm just gonna let this go because I need to worry about myself.
Yeah, I'm partial to those like the boxes and stuff. If I have to do a drop in, to find something, I prefer to go towards the dark side and go towards a CrossFit gym just because they typically don't have mirrors and they have the kind of equipment that I'm more accustomed to using these days. So, but hopefully, in the perfect world, I just get to work out in my garage. So,
and what are some of your goals in the garage right now?
Well, it's a great long story. So, when I was in the military, it was pretty easy for me to do 2-a-days. I'd go to PT formation in the morning and I'd get my cardio in, get the runs done that I hate doing, but I was already there. So it was kind of one of those, well, I'm here, let's go do it. And then I'd get off work and I'd come home and I would focus on the weight training. And I used to program my own stuff. I was a kinesiology undergrad originally, so I have like a base level, enough to be dangerous, I guess. So I was always building my own programs, and I would build out these 12-week programs and make it to week 6, and then I would get bored and I'd change it. So program ADD.
That's a problem with writing your own programs. You're like, it's not even necessarily program hopping at that point. You're just like, wait, I think I can make it better than I originally did.
Exactly. Yep. And I actually have ADHD, so for me, like boredom and change are a daily thing. So I've decided I would try the Garage Gym Athlete thing out in 2018. I started with the free trial, just figured what the heck, and I actually loved it. So that's when I committed, I think, full time. It was right after that. Before that, I was experimenting with military athlete and some other stuff. And so yeah, now that I'm out of the military, this past year, I struggled to kind of find a good goal because my goal wasn't necessarily military all the time, which was nice, but that left me wondering like, okay, what's my purpose for waking up early or doing XYZ workout? And then I thought, oh, it's because I want to continue to, look good naked, goal number 3. Right. But then I realized now that I'm over 30 and I have 3 kids and a wife, that's not a good enough goal to keep me motivated all the time, because it's good enough to get me to work out most of the time, but it's not good enough to keep me clean on my diet. It's not good enough to get me good on my sleep routine. And it's really easy to talk myself out of a workout if I'm busy. And it wasn't until really only these last 2 months that I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was a wrestler growing up and been wanting to try, but every time I started it just never really worked out. So I finally found a gym that I can go to, small audience, 90 minutes a day. And that was a good catalyst for me to get more consistent on my Garage Gym Athlete as well, because what I noticed is I enjoyed that in the evenings and I wanted to compete. Even though I'm brand new, I was like, I'm going to compete. I have 6 weeks until this first tournament opportunity, And that made it a lot easier for me to be more consistent on my Garage Gym Athlete workouts, because I was training for more than just like a physical. There was a consequence to not training. If I didn't make that weight, then I was going to go up. And the weight classes were 15 pounds apart. So going from 170 to 185 is a pretty significant jump in competition. So that just gave me, and it gave me more feedback, I guess. I could see the training paying off more in the competition. That just happened on the 30th of October. So that was having something to train towards was a big pivot for me in this past year. I mean, you can look through Team Builder and just see like there are like whole months that there was nothing. Doesn't mean I was completely inactive, but I wasn't good at logging it. I wasn't doing the right stuff. And even this past week, like I've been kind of trashed after that tournament. So I'm behind this week, but I'll probably close the loop by Sunday because I'm enjoying this cycle. But yeah, so that's my current goal is I'm going to keep doing hard to kill because I think it makes me better on the mat, and the mat makes me better on hard to kill because they're kind of mutually supporting. And then I think come January, I'll switch over to shred just because it'll be easier for weight management to do that track.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I think whether something like you're doing like an actual tournament or event or whatever, something that just kind of put your feet to the fire, I think is just a great way to do it because I mean, I run into the same things as like, because the look good naked goal doesn't zero motivation for me, like, and so then it becomes, okay, well, can I be consistent? It's like, yeah, you can be consistent, but you can also be lackadaisical consistent. You know what I mean? Like it's like I'm putting in the work, but I'm not lifting that heavy. I'm not running that fast. And so when you actually have this standard of like, you need to be a certain weight to be able to compete here, or if you are chasing a specific thing, or you want to place at an event or 5K or whatever it is, then you have a reason for, let's just say, the trying hard part of fitness too, beyond just the like, I did it. And so I think that's awesome, man, that you're able to find that connection there.
Yeah. And years ago, I can't remember how long ago, it might've been over almost 2 years. You did in the webinar, you talked about finding that balance between, having a goal, what you want to do, but also enjoying what you're doing. Because if it was just about the weight loss, we could easily argue, oh, jump on Endure. Like I'm going to shed a ton of weight, but I hate running. So I can tell you that if I was on Endure, like I'd make it through a week, maybe 10 days. And like, it would be really easy for me to be like, it's 28 degrees outside and really windy. I'm not going to go do 50 minutes of running. That's not going to happen. So hard to kill is my favorite track for sure. Shred is a very close second. And there are days where Shred had made me very sad. But yeah, finding the ones that are fun and having that goal. And again, it was more than just weight loss. I wanted to win. I wanted to not get choked out. I got choked out a lot anyway, but I felt better going into it. So.
And there's nothing like jujitsu, which I did some in the military, and then let's just say wrestling in general, to make you realize how I wouldn't even say it's necessarily out of shape. It's more like you don't have enough of that glycolytic power. But they're like 2-3 minutes is the most exhausting thing that you could possibly do. Like when you are wrestling, for lack of a better word, with another man, of equal ability, it's just like there's nothing more exhausting than that. And that just shows you like you can be super fit and then you hop on the mat for 2 minutes with somebody and you're like, dang, I could still be a lot fitter. Like there's still a long way to go here.
That was a very stark reality for me because like I said, I grew up wrestling. And I think back in early October, it's about 4 weeks into the jiu-jitsu program. Again, 90 minutes a day, I would say 4 to 5 days a week when I could get in there. And I texted my dad and I was like, 90 minutes as a 32-and-a-half-year-old just hits a lot different than 2.5 hours as a 15-year-old. Like I was absolutely smoked. And even at the tournament, with all the extra training and being consistent, I would still say that one of my greatest revelations is I still need to work on my conditioning. And I've translated that into the program a bit. I've shortened some of the rests depending on what the programming is, just because I know that, sometimes I only have 9 minutes between bouts. So I know I'll go a full 5-minute round. I'll have 9 minutes and then I have another 5-minute, smoke session right after it. So I'm trying to get the anaerobic endurance back up. And it's been a process, but I've seen the noticeable gains. But
awesome, man. So we kind of hit on it. You were doing quite a bit of stuff before Garage Gym Athlete. Was there anything else you wanted to cover? What you were doing before you were a Garage Gym Athlete?
well, honestly, like I said, it was mostly bodybuilding stuff. I started doing some full body programs, but I think Garage Gym Athlete, when I found it, it was nice because it provided me with that change, that dynamic change, but it was still within what I thought. I hated CrossFit. I was an anti-CrossFitter because of the randomization. So, having that linear and block periodization model nested within like the functional and multiple energy system training approach made it really appealing. So once I switched, it was pretty easy to stay on that track. And every now and then I've added my own stuff back in, depending on if I have very specific goals. But for the most part, I've been predominantly a Garage Gym Athlete since 2018. So
awesome. And how do you like training in your garage?
I love it. Like I said, totally spoiled. Can't go back. When I have to go back, it's unfortunate, but I really prefer it. And I like it because let's say I had a rough morning or a late night or whatever, that's not like, oh man, that was my window for the day. I missed it. I don't want to have to drive all the way back over to the gym. When I get home, I can do it, even if it's 8 o'clock at night, not ideal, but it's available to me.
Hey man, what's the hardest workout you've ever done?
All right, I wrote this down in 2 parts on my notes sheet here, but hardest workout, I have like 2 answers. I have like hardest, but most fun that I enjoy doing. I love Broken Arrow. I really enjoy it. I'm not a biker, so I usually modify it a bit because I don't have a road bike or I have an Airdyne, but that's not ideal for Broken Arrow. But I really like Broken Arrow because it's, generally 90 minutes of just full output, but then you're just, you're like, I did it. I made it through. And then like the hardest, Suckfest one, it was kind of a toss up for me. I think I really couldn't pick like a hardest Suckfest. I think the hardest overall for me is Broken Arrow, but I enjoy doing it. So I like that one. Awesome. I think end of, what is it? 5 mile, the 5 mile or die one. I hate that one.
Oh, the hard to kill 5 miler.
It's really hard.
I despise that workout. So
that one is brutal.
Personally, I hate that one.
All right. In your opinion, what's the best activity for building mental toughness?
I hate running. So anytime I do that, I have those mental conversations of just keep going. So for some people running, I know Dom Decker will just get out there and clock mileage for fun. And that just sounds like an exercise in boredom and pain to me. But I think other than that, waking up early is always something I have to really work on. I do all kinds of tips and tricks to keep my phone across the room, or I try changing the alarm tone every couple of days. And even then I'm my own worst enemy when it comes to getting up at a reasonable hour. And like I said, today was a near Herculean effort as I backed everything up almost an hour so I could get the kids launched on time. So I hate waking up early. That's a good mental toughness exercise for me. And then as we talked about, the jiu-jitsu and wrestling, I think that in itself there's nothing easier than sitting in the middle of a round and you're going all in, he's going all in. It's a stalemate. You're completely out of energy. You're hurting. Someone's trying to actively choke you out. It's so easy in your head to be like, if I just tap right now, I'm done. And I'm not going to say I had that conversation with myself once or twice or 3 times last Saturday, but it definitely crossed my mind, especially in that very first match when you're not quite awake yet and you haven't started going and you're just like, what am I doing? Why am I here? So that was a good one for me too. But personally, I think waking up early is the hardest thing I have to do.
Yeah, it's a
privileged life, I guess.
Hey man, waking up early is any earlier than you have to wake up is a challenge. Whether you need to be up at 4, so you wake up at 3:30, or you need to be up at 8 and you wake up at 7:30. It is always a more challenging than staying in bed. It's one of the biggest things.
Yeah, I found I was a lot better at it pre-COVID. When I was in the Army and still having to go to stuff, I could get up at 4, be working out by 4:30, no big deal. Now I'm it's a fight.
Yeah, there's not a big like why. Like you mentioned that earlier, like why wake up earlier? And I even struggle that at times now because I used to be the wake up, 4:30, 5 a.m. And then I kind of gave that up really just to sleep more. I just felt like I needed more sleep after we all read that book on the team, Why We Sleep. And so I started sleeping till like 5:30 or 6. And then I keep going through these periods like, no, I need to start waking up earlier again. And then I'm like, but why? Like why not just get the amount of sleep that you think that you need? You're still getting everything done that you need to get done in life, like between training and family and everything else. So like, if you don't have a big reason why, which is something I struggle with currently, is like, why wake up at 4? I don't need to wake up at 4. I get everything done waking up at 5:30 or 6.
Yep. Actually, your last webinar really helped me out. Like I used to like feel guilty. Like I didn't get up and do my workout before 6 a.m., and I'm not doing 2-a-days or whatever. And you mentioned something, hey, you know what? Like some guys do that, but like if I get my 1 hour in, like that's okay. Like that's good enough for me, especially if I make that 1 hour count. I'm following the programming. I'm going as prescribed, not taking extra rest, and I'm pushing myself. So I've had to like kind of reframe over the past year, like, it's not all or nothing. Sometimes it's just something. And as I get back in this new job and my schedule starts to shift, I'm sure that I'll start moving back towards morning workouts and stuff, but I haven't had to do that. So I haven't forced myself to do it. There's no reason to do it if I don't have to at this point. So
yeah. And that's what I find myself in that position with, like, mainly it's like on the weekends now, because our kids, every single one of them is playing sports. And then sometimes I have a tournament. So it's like starting around 9 a.m., the whole day's gone. Like I don't have anything. And so I either wake up at 5 on a Saturday to train, or I'm not going to do it that day because evenings are even more difficult. And so those are the times where I'm like, I actually have a reason to like wake up and do this, so I'm going to do it, and that's when I get it done. But other than that, if it doesn't need to happen, let's just get it done when we want to get it done.
And that's exactly right. Yeah. Between kid activities and like this last month, I've been gone every single weekend for something, whether it's drill or a wedding or the tournament. So I had to remind myself that fitness is a part of my life, but it is not my life. Like I have other things. So
that's awesome. All right, man. If you could only have one piece of equipment to train with for the rest of your life, what would it be?
I had to flip a coin on this, but I settled on my sandbag because I think if I only had one, my sandbag ranges from 25 to 100 pounds. So you can get almost every muscle group in some way. It was really close tie with the barbell, but without the rack, the barbell was a little less appealing. Although you can't do as much weight on things like deadlift and cleans and all that. But I think for comprehensive, able to hit every single system, you could do it with the sandbag pretty well. So
that's a good point, because to be honest, if you don't have the rack, you can only back squat on barbell what you can clean and jerk. Yep. Exactly. And so that might limit you to your sandbag weight. So unless you're using your trash cans.
Or the milk cans.
Yeah. Milk cans. yeah, you can find a way. Cool.
What's something you would want to add to your gym?
Oh, man. I've been thinking about this a lot, and I think I would get like a sled or something, because the Army, I'm sure you guys are tracking, they switched that new fitness test, and generally speaking, I didn't do anything special to train for that. I just showed up and took it, and I did pretty well, because I think our programming here at Garage Gym Athlete fits what they're going towards in this more functional, like multi-energy system approach. But my weakest event both times now has been this one called sprint drag carry, and it's you start in the prone, they say go, you jump up, you sprint down 25 meters, you come back, you grab this sled with 90 pounds on it. I say sled, it's like it's the Rogue like canvas, like sled bag kind of thing. And you have to drag that sucker down backwards across the line and back. And then you drop it, you grab 2 40-pound kettlebells, run those down and back. Then you shuttle down and back, or not shuttle, but shuffle. And then you sprint down and back. And I improved by 3 seconds across like 4 months on that, because I'm having a hard time specifically training that sled drag. Front squats help, the rear lunges help, but without just having a sled to drag, like it's challenging for me. And because I suck at it, I want to get it so I don't suck at it anymore.
Dude, that's a lot. So you sprint down and back, you drag down then you sprint back, then you carry kettlebells like farmers carry down, then you sprint back, then you like side shuffle. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. But each one, so the drag and the kettlebells, like that's down and back. So it's 50
Okay.
total meters, 25 down, 25 back. But yeah, I suck at that. So I went from like 2 minutes to like 1 minute 57, like, and to max it, it's a minute 33. So I'm like in the 80% zone. So I'm trying to pump that up.
I bet that lights a lot of people up. That's definitely sounds like super glycolytic. Like
yeah, my lungs felt like I had blood in them. Like after the last one, it was really embarrassing. But that's my weakest event, and so I thought a sled would be cool, and you can do other things with it. So it might be a nice addition.
How many people in the military I made throw up just by introducing a sled, and they had never had experience with a sled, and I'd just be like, "We're gonna do sled today. Just go as hard as you can." That's all I'd say. And then it would take like one 50-yard bout, and then it's just like over. The whole day's ruined.
It's actually worse than an air dying.
Yeah.
Yep. No, I agree. I would rather do like pain or gain on the air bike than that event more than once. So
yeah, and sleds it's always the space, right? Like I've had a sled a few different times. I had the DIY sled for a while, and it's just always a matter of like, can you find a place to use it? Because I don't feel like they're the same if you're using them on concrete. Like I know they have the ones,
four-wheel ones. Those would be awesome.
Oh yeah, well yeah, I forgot about that one. They just like put a resistant, like a brake on the wheels, right? Yeah. So yeah, I think it's always about space. But man, if I could work in more sled work, I would definitely do that as well. I might be able to figure it out in my backyard here. I don't know, but yeah, that's a good choice, man. Well, what is the best advice you have for all the garage gym athletes out there listening?
I wrote down 2. I think the first one is trust the process. This past year, without getting all like the nitty gritty, like I fell off my consistency. I started, I was trying to work in other programs. I was worried about my run time. So I brought in this like run improvement plan and this rucking improvement plan and all these things that I was trying to balance in there. And by doing so, I kind of shot myself in the foot on my GGA consistency. And I went to a fitness evaluation in September, and I knew in my head I wasn't ready for it. But I didn't realize how unprepared for it I was. And I chalked that all up to my inconsistency. And you kind of hit on that in the webinar last time too. So you did the webinar. I went to that event and I was like, he was absolutely right. That is 100% true, which is another motivating factor as to why I got back on the horse. And then to that point, my second piece of advice is if you fall off the horse, that's okay. Just got to get back on it. And I think we all at times at those points where physically and mentally we're just we're smoked. Even if we don't know it, we're just like, man, I need to take some time and like just recuperate. Maybe even though it's not deload week, this becomes another zone 2 week or something. And I think we need to be a little bit self-aware about those signs. Like a lot of us in the last 18-ish months with COVID and all that, we've probably been more acutely aware of our own mental and physical well-being. But looking for those signs, like for myself, if you love working and training out, or working out and training, backwards that, and then all of a sudden you've lost interest or you're having a hard time motivating, that is probably indicative of other stuff going on too. Like I never had a problem motivating until I would say like February, March of this past year. And then it was a struggle, and I love working out. I love training. But that ended up really being a side effect of some other mental health stuff that I had to go get, taken care of. So being aware of those things and recognizing the signs and knowing when you need to take a knee or slow things down and recover is important. It's not always about going balls to the wall all the time. You have to fit fitness into your lifestyle and make sure it's for your well-being and not, a punishment or a chore. So
I think that's awesome, man. That, I had that realization. So I did Murph for a year, and that year it was, to be honest, it wasn't that hard. I went hard almost every single time. Just things were in a good spot with kids and family. And then the second year I did it, it was so much more challenging. The kids were just at different ages. We had more activities, things that we were doing, business, we moved. There were just so many factors other than training that were affecting my life. And it made that training, that Murph, so much harder just to even like want to do it first. And then second, to even go hard was like another thing. And I think now when I look at taking on big challenges or big training goals, like I have to stop and look at that, be like, are you in a position in your life right now to go do what you want to do? Like, how's the work-life balance? How are the kids? Like, can you actually do this, as opposed to just how I used to do things, which was just like, I want to do it, so I'm going to go do it. But you just won't be able to perform how you want. And it ends up being worse than had you not taken on the goal at all, because you start to beat yourself up mentally for not being the person you thought you were.
That's exactly it right there. That was something that I think us military types, type A people really struggle with, is like, nobody cares if you did 52 MRFs in a year except you.
Right.
But you're going to punish yourself mentally and feel bad. And that it's like it's a feedback loop, and it all compounds. And that was exactly what I was struggling with halfway, for most of this year, even was, I was sucking, and then I was, blue, and then I started sucking more, and it was awful. So being forgiving to yourself is important. So
that's awesome. Well, it's been awesome having you on the podcast, Ryan, and I'm glad that we got to catch up and share this information with the community. I think it'll help a lot of people out, man. And you've been around for a long time, so I do appreciate you, sticking around and attending the webinars and doing the training and doing all that you have. And I hope to catch you at another Spartan race sometime in the future. Maybe we can pick one in Colorado or something like that. But yeah, man, thanks for everything, and thanks for being a Garage Gym Athlete.
Thanks for having me. And then I guess I'm going to double back on one more question. You said, what was the hardest workout of all time? I think that Carolina Beast was probably the single hardest workout I ever did. It was a long day. So.
It was just the worst event. It wasn't even a hard workout. It was just the worst event.
It was miserable. And then the hypothermia right afterwards was not pleasant. So
that was the most challenging part, like the actual hypothermia.
Yeah. Anyway, hey, thanks guys for having me. And I'm looking forward to getting my consistency back up and having some good results to share with the community in the coming months. So
awesome. Thanks, Ryan.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Garage Gym Athlete podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. Thanks for listening.